Sairam Auntie, you can start.
Can I start?
Yes.
Oh. 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 Saishwaraya vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayatu. Om Saishwaraya vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayatu. Om Saishwaraya vidmahe Satyadevaya dhimahi Tanna sarva prachodayatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sairam everyone. We are continuing on chapter 4 from yesterday. I am the servitor of all. Satyam was admitted in grade 8 in the high school in Uravakonda. He lived with his brother Seshamaraju. There was no drinking water in the house. It had to be fetched from a well a mile away from the town. To meet the daily needs, Satyam would bring water every day, morning and evening, making 2 to 3 trips each time. He would carry 2 large containers on each trip, slung one at each end of a bamboo pole balanced on his shoulders. The neighbors soon discovered Satyam's affable and obliging nature. They would ask him endearingly to fetch some water for them too, and the lad would cheerfully meet their requirements as well. Satyam returned to Puttaparthi for the holidays. Iswarama prepared to give her little boy an oil bath. When she set about applying oil to his body, she found calluses on his shoulders. The skin too had darkened. He tried to evade her anxious inquiries, but when pressed, he explained with a disarming smile, "It's probably due to my bringing water for our elder brother's household." Eyes brimming, the loving mother inquired why he should have to fetch water. Satyam replied, "How can they live on brackish water? That apart, dear mother, is it not a fact that I have come only to serve people?" The answer brought no solace to the distressed mother. Anne Mary Marvaha, a lady employed with the German embassy in New Delhi, had enjoyed the good fortune of tasting the sweetness of Bhagwan's love. On one of her visits to Puttaparthi, she asked, "Swami, what is the true nature of your incarnation? I fail to understand it." Bhagwan softly replied, "What shall I say? To tell you in a nutshell, I am the servitor of all." The reply took her by storm. In a torment of pity, she sobbed uncontrollably. She cried, "Why do you say like this, Baba?" Swami explained, "Dear child, that is but the simple truth. Everyone gives me a job to do. Whoever does everyone's errand is indeed the servitor of all, is it not?" Bhagwan's words and deeds, be they of his childhood days or of the present day, are the same. Swami fetched drinking water as a child. Even today, grown up as he is still fetching fresh, wholesome drinking water. The only difference is that a new name has now been given to his labors, Sri Satya Sai Drinking Water Project. In the olden days, neighbors requested him, "Babu, dear boy, will you bring some drinking water for us too?" Today, people from neighboring districts are praying to him, "Baba, will you give some drinking water for us too?" Bhagwan answers with boundless love and affection, "Yes, yes, certainly, certainly." Some of them have only heard of Puttaparthi but do not know where it is. They have to inquire and find out how to reach there. In their distress, they make their arduous way to Baba, to their divine mother for succor. And sure enough, the compassionate mother responds, "My poor children have come to me praying, not for sumptuous feast, but for a mere quaff of water." The motherly assurance of Bhagwan comes forth spontaneously. "Surely, surely, It is not one mother speaking, but 1,000 mothers. Indeed, it is the love of 1,000,000 mothers. Swami achieved single-handedly what an entire government or a whole nation could not accomplish. The beneficiaries are his own children. For their welfare, he has spent and is spending hundreds of crores of rupees on a drinking water project. People are grateful, but can this immense debt of love be repaid ever? The Sri Sathya Sai drinking water project has so far covered about 750 villages and 11 towns. It is considered to be one of the marvels of the world. Water flows through 2,500 kilometers of pipeline and quenches the thirst of 1,000,000 people in the Rayalaseema region of Andhra Pradesh. The nectar-like love of Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba is visible in every meter of the long pipeline. Do deeds match words? During his school days in Uravakonda, Satyam was encouraged and inspired to write a short play dealing with human values. It was significantly titled, Do Deeds Match Words? The details of that play, written a long time back, are topical even today. Scene 1 of the play opens with a woman who is reading and interpreting verses in the Sri Mahabhagavat to a group of women. In the course of her discourse, she exhorts her audience not to waste charity on able-bodied beggars and the indolent, but to help only those who are infirm, disabled, old, or handicapped. After the gathering disperses, a blind man approaches her and begs for help. She is annoyed and drives him away. A moment later, a Haridas, wearing prominent caste marks all over his body and singing songs, comes begging for alms. He's playing on a stringed instrument as an accompaniment to his singing. The lady gives him some rice as well as cash, bows to his feet, and seeks his blessings. Krishna, her son, is a witness to what has gone by. He is perturbed and asks her, Dear mother, what did you teach your friends during your religious discourse, and what have you done just now? She gets wild and shouts at him, Shut up, does anybody do as he says? Scene 2 shows the same boy with his father in the latter's office. His father extols the benefits of education and concludes his speech saying that one should obtain good education, overcoming every obstacle. A poor boy standing outside is overhearing the inspiring words through an open window. He comes in and says, Sir, thanks to monetary assistance from high-minded persons like you, I managed to pay my school fees. But now I am short of 1 rupee to pay this month's fee. Kindly help me. The gentleman replies that he does not have even a paisa with him and opens his purse to show that it's empty. After the disappointed student leaves, several colleagues descend on him and ask for contributions for a function and refreshments to welcome an officer newly posted to the office. In his opinion, he tells them, such an important occasion deserves to be celebrated on a big scale and gives 20 rupees as his contribution. His son Krishna, a mute witness to all this, asks his father, Daddy, you spoke at length and in glowing terms about the value of education and the importance of getting educated at any cost. But when that poor schoolboy begged for just a single rupee for the sake of educating himself, you turned him down. On the other hand, you have readily parted with 20 rupees for the sake of an ostentatious waste. Why? The man turns on him in great annoyance. Do deeds of people match their words? Shut up and go to school. In scene 3, Krishna is seen sitting in his class. His teacher enters in a great flurry. The inspector of schools is visiting us today. He tells the class, we have finished 23 lessons so far. But if the inspector asks you, tell him that we have completed 32. I will now do the 33rd lesson. Later, when the inspector comes here, I will teach it afresh in his presence, as if I am doing it for the first time. Whatever questions I put to you now will be repeated in his presence, so that you will impress him with your correct answers. Krishna meets the teacher a little later when he is alone. He asks him, Sir, the new lesson you taught us today is about King Satya Harishchandra, who was dedicated to truth irrespective of consequences. Even as you taught us about such a noble person, you directed us to speak lies. Is it proper? The teacher flies into a rage and admonishes him. Is there anyone whose actions accord with his words? In the fourth and final scene, Krishna flings his books aside and refuses to go to school. Unable to bring him round, the parents send for his teacher. In the presence of all the three, the boy says, "You are, of course, teaching me good lessons, but you do not allow me to act on the precepts I hear from you. Of what use are your lessons? I do not want to learn them." The elders are spellbound but see the point. They relent and express regrets. This is the substance of the short play written by Satyam when he was barely 12 years of age. He also donned Krishna's role when it was played. He conveyed through that role to the world that hypocrisy should be eschewed and everyone should live up to his word. From that day right up to this day, he has been exhorting people, mere words are not enough. Your action should conform to what you speak. This ringing message reverberates through the entire world and guides every aspirant, sadhaka, towards spiritual elevation. Saira.
Saira.
Auntie, please go ahead.
Saira, the missing horse. When Satyam was at school in Urvakonda, a poor Muslim of that town was making a living by plying a horse carriage. One day his horse went missing. Failing to find it, the poor man came to Satyam for help. The boy directed him to a wood situated about a mile and a half away from the town. He did so and found his horse grazing there. From then on, Muslims of the town developed great love and respect for Satyam. News of Satyan's uncommon abilities spread far and wide. Long before this, Shirdi Sai Baba also displayed a similar miracle when a well-to-do Muslim by name Chad Bhai Patel of Dubkhada village in the Aurangabad district lost his mare. Disappointed and tired after a fruitless search for the missing beast, he was dejectedly dragging himself home with saddle on his back. Shirdi Sai Baba saw him, took pity on his despondency, and directed him to search for his mare in the nearby channel. Chad Patel did as told, and to his great surprise and delight found the animal there. Now, what is the deeper meaning of these two similar incidents? The horse or mare represents the human mind that is ever unsteady. One who succeeds in comprehending the true nature of mind is truly a chittatur. Ashwa is a Sanskrit word for horse, meaning one that is perpetually in motion. We normally take Ashwa to mean a horse, but it is only its broad meaning. Horse is always in motion, moving its leg, tail, or ear every moment. Thus, Ashwa stands for the quality of unsteadiness, the state of being continuously disturbed, restless. The Sanskrit word Ashwamedha, horse sacrifice, means offerings of one's unsteady mind to God. The Sanskrit word Ashwata, people tree, likewise refers to a tree that is in perpetual motion. Even when there is a little breeze, its leaves keep moving. The human mind also keeps on wavering similarly both during sleep and wakefulness. Baba says, horse sacrifice, Ashwamedha, does not mean that the animal in the flesh and blood should be physically killed and offered to God. The true meaning is that our animal nature should be given up as an offering to God. Divine Puppeteer asks the dancer. When Satyam was at school in Urvakonda, his headmaster arranged a benefit program for raising funds for the school. Rishyendramani, a celebrated dancer of those days, was to dance. Publicity material was printed and widely distributed, but due to some unexpected developments, she could not keep her appointment. Lakshmi Pati, the headmaster, got worried and became tense. Satyam approached him and told him not to worry. The item of dance that Rashendra Mani was to perform, he said, he would do himself. The amazing item had made her justly famous and indeed very difficult to perform. She would put a bottle made of glass on her head, position a plate thereon, and place some lighted oil lamp on the plate. She would then dance, and while continuing with it, she pick up a handkerchief from the ground with her lips. Satyam offered to do something more astounded. Sir, she picks up only a handkerchief with her lips, he said. I will pick up a needle with my eyelids, but please announce that performing artist is Rishya Mantramani. Several years later, Swami described in his own words what happened on that day. I was made to wear a sari too big for me. The organizers provided a pigtail for the sort worn by women, of the sort worn by women. As you know, while dancing, the dancer flicks it from side to side, so they made it thick and long, lest it should fall off while I danced. They strongly tied it all over. Strings of bells adorned my ankles. They found a jalopy to carry me from my makeup place to the venue to, da- uh, to the venue of the dance program. There was a run on tickets as nobody wanted to miss Rishi and Ramani's dance. When musical instruments began playing, I gently shook my ankle bells to produce captivating sounds. The audience lost themselves in ecstasy. The headmaster placed a bottle on the crown of my head. Another teacher positioned the plate gingerly thereon and lighted the lamps. Why did they do all this in public? Just to satisfy the doubters who might be thinking that I had all these things fixed firmly and securely on my head. It must be to show their satisfaction that they were all loosely positioned. Music was being played for my dance. I was moving round and round on the stage. Even as I danced, I suddenly bent down and picked up with my eyelids a needle placed on the ground. The audience clapped in delight and applause. The district collector, an Englishman, came on the stage to award a medal to me. His name was Horsley. He wanted to touch me before giving the medal. I refused. He said, I'm just like a brother to you. I want to place this medal around your neck. I replied, I am just like your sister. Give it into my hand. From the side of the stage, the headmaster was signaling to me that he was the collector and that I should accept without fuss. But I was standing there as Rishyamandrani. I refused to be touched by the man. Meanwhile, there were claps and noises from the audience asking the collector to hand over the medal and return to his seat. He gave it to me and went back disappointed. The president of Chadapa District Board was Schmidt Rama Subhama during those days. She came to the school on the next day. It is due to Rishya Yandrami, she said, that the school could raise so much money for constructing its building. We want to honor her and have brought an expensive sari as a gift to her. She called out to Risha, that word is a little bit puzzling for me, to Risha Yendramani and request her to come on the stage. From where could she come? As the audience eagerly awaited the great dance, I came running. I was wearing shorts. The guard stopped me. Then our headmaster intervened and told him, yesterday's Rishya Yendramani is really this boy. Let him coming. Everyone was puzzled on seeing me. Shri Mati Ram Subhama lifted me up in her arms, kissed me, and said, my dear child, you are so tender in age, but have brought great honor to us. I am proud that there are talented persons like you in our country. She was all praise for me ever since she showed great love for Swami. Wherever she went, she would narrate tales of Swami's glory. This is how Swami gave a dance program that day in the high school of Uravakonda. The whole universe is a stage for the Supreme Being. Ever since that day, Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai has been assuming countless forms and fascinating the world with his melodious music and divine dance. Sairam.
The sting of a scorpion. On 8th March 1940, a momentous event took place in Uttarakhand. Satyam was stung by a big black scorpion. His body lost sensation. He sank into unconsciousness. The news spread like wildfire and agitated many people. In that region, scorpion sting often meant death. Satyam was administered several injections and medicines, but none availed. Slowly, he recovered in a couple of days, got up on his own, and began to move about. But he seemed to have undergone a total transformation, both mentally and physically. It was as though a spiritual spark dormant in his inner being suddenly came to life and began to glow. The effulgence of the Supreme Being comes only after the darkest period. The Lord of Shirdi was about to unveil and display in sharp relief the immense body of his own spiritual powers through the medium of this boy. Satyam was often seen lost in his own thoughts. He recited Sanskrit slokas, sang songs, and gave religious discourses. His behavior was strange and inscrutable. Shishma, Raju, and his parents were deeply concerned and confused. Years later, somebody gave a speech in the presence of Baba. He said, Swami was stung by a scorpion. That is the reason why he acquired spiritual powers from that day. Baba, who spoke after him, stated, the person who spoke before me said that Swami obtained spiritual powers because of scorpion sting. Let him be stung by 100 scorpions. Let us see whether it would bring any spiritual powers to him. There is no doubt that the incident of the scorpion sting is merely a turning point in Swami's life. It cannot be the cause of his divine powers. It merely marks the stage of his sankalpam, the will to unveil his divinity. The Bestower of Knowledge. Going back to the happenings of Uttarakhand, one day Satyam appeared deeply lost in himself. Suddenly he said, Narayana Sastri next door is reciting the stanzas in the Sri Mahabhagavat, but is committing many mistakes in his exposition. Send for him. Some persons went to the learned man and requested him to come and see Satyam. Disdainfully, Sastri said, Oh, he is but a mere boy. Is he finding fault with my learning? What does he know? He did not bother to come, but Satyam insisted. This time, the intermediaries could persuade the old man to come into Satyam's presence. The boy explained to him all the errors he had committed. He also put him some questions on the Puranas, sacred scriptures. The scholarly Sastri admitted his lapses and acknowledged the correction made by Satyam. Outstanded at the young boy's brilliance and erudition, Sastri prostrated himself at the feet. Even now, occasionally, Bhagwan finds scholars whose quest for the supreme reality consists merely of profound study of scriptures, sacred texts, and mantras. They devote a lot of their time to scholarly exposition of their deep learning. But in their single-minded dedication to learning, they fail to recognize that the very supreme they are aspiring to reach through scholarship, the very object of their studies, is present right in front of them in human form. Scales of intensive learning prevent their eyes from visualizing the ultimate reality in the person near at hand in flesh and blood. Looking far, they miss what is close by. Bhagwan grants such persons proper insight that they are in need of. In this context, it is relevant to recall an interesting incident that reveals Bhagwan's profound knowledge of scriptures. During the Dasara festivities, some years back, a yajna was performed. Elaborate arrangements were made and a special day was erected for the purpose. Eminent scholars of the Vedas and other scriptures were in attendance. Some of them had no faith in Baba's divinity. They had not yet acquired sincere love and devotion for him. Probably because of that casual and irreverent attitude, a lapse occurred. One of the scholars who was reciting a sacred mantra committed a mistake in pronunciation. Instead of correcting himself properly, the scholar went ahead, thinking perhaps that his lapse went unnoticed. Bhagwan turned towards him, looked at him seriously for a moment, and sternly said, "Sastri, chant it again properly." The scholar trembled as if he was lashed. Then Swami started reciting that mantra with impeccable intonation. The assembled scholars were astonished and joined Swami in reciting the mantra with proper intonation. Forbearance. As Satyam's fame spread, people from far and near began flocking to Urava Kanda to meet the amazing boy. Tongues wagged. Some say that he was a victim of some evil spell, black magic, that he was possessed by a wild spirit, that he was controlled by a demon, and that a tantric or witchcraft might cure him. The distraught Sishama Raju brought in a worshipper of goddess Shakti to help. Satyam chastised him. "You are worshipping me every day. You are seeking my blessings daily. Now, how dare you come to give me treatment? Bow to my feet with reverence and depart like a good boy." The poor man got frightened, saluted Satyam, and left. Satyam was brought back from Uravakanda to Puttaparthi by his parents. He was shown to well-known doctors of Bellary and Dharmavaram. None of them could diagnose his problem. Now and then, Satyam would suddenly cry out, "There, Devtas, celestial beings, are coming. Offer arti, sacred lighting of lamps and camphor as a mark of devotion." Such utterances used to puzzle and distress members of his household. They were puzzled, they told of a reputed exorcist near the town of Kadiri, who could drive away even the vilest and the most intractable evil spirit. Pedav and Kamaraju decided to take Satyam to him. He, his daughters, Shishma Raju and Satyam traveled there in a bullock cart. The exorcist had a dreadful mien and fiery eyes. He subjected the 14-year-old boy to crude procedures and cruel corporal punishment. He gashed the victim's shaven head with a razor at several places. While blood flowed in streams, he poured lemon juice and onion juice in the wounds. He rubbed an ointment in his face, which is notorious for causing unbearable smarting. He poured 101 pots of water on the bloodied and burning head. The inhumane torture which Satyam silently bore with fortitude and forbearance shocked his unfortunate and helpless family members. They felt shaken and remorseful. The exorcist grew wilder because he believed that the devilish spirit that possessed Satyam was unyielding. Unable to bear the mental agony at having surrendered their dear child to such inhumane torture, the family begged the tormentor to give the boy some respite. They pleaded that after he recovered somewhat, he would be brought back for further treatment. Satyam was thus rescued from further torture at the hands of the exorcist. Years later, Haridas was rendering Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba's life in his very presence as he reached this particular abode of Swami's bodily torture at the hands of a heartless brute. Swami intervened. Those details are too painful even to hear. Skip over them, Bangaru. Sometime later, Sri Kasturi asked, Swami, you found it so painful even to hear of those sufferings? Why did you all at all agree to undergo such inhumane treatment at that time? The reply of Bhagwan Sai is very revealing. He explained, whatever be the suffering this body is put to, it will not affect me. I transcend happiness and sorrow of every kind. I wanted to demonstrate these aspects of mine to the world. That is why I endured all those tortures with patience and forbearance. I invited that punishment willingly because my suffering would convince people of my spirituality. They would develop trust and faith in me and set foot in the rewarding realm of devotion to God, Bhakti. There was a lawyer in the town of Penukanda called Krishnamacharayulu. He came down to Puttapati to see Satyam and concluded that his condition was much more serious than he had imagined. He advised Satyam's elders to take him to the temple town of Gati Kachalam. He felt the darshan of Lord Narasimha Swami, the man-lion avatar of Lord Sri Mahavishnu, the presiding deity there, would cure Satyam. On hearing the words of the lawyer, Satyam smiled and asked him, Sir, I am the presiding deity at the Gati Kachalam. Are you advising that I should be taken for my own darshan? Sairam. Samasta lokha sukhino bhavantu. Samasta lokha sukhino bhavantu. Samasta lokha sukhino bhavantu. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Sairam. Thank you, Auntie Zarina, Auntie Kamala, and Auntie Mala. And thank you all for joining. See you all tomorrow.
Thank you.
Sairam. Thanks.